Welcome everyone to the V3 implementation call. Today is February 9th, 2022. We appreciate you being on the call with us this morning. Just as a reminder, if you haven't updated your name in the participant list, that's really helpful to us to track attendance, and especially for vendors in making sure that we track participation for the compliance aspect. We have a short agenda with us for us this morning. I'll go ahead and move down to that. Also, as a reminder, these meetings are recorded. They are put on our website and also on our YouTube channel. So feel free to refer or share those videos if there's a section that you missed. Chris is great. Chris Hoffman on our team is great about posting those and timestamping them on our YouTube channel so that they're easier to navigate. First on our agenda for today, Jen Correa is going to give us our maintenance update. Laurel Bader is on leave for a little while, so Jen is going to be doing the maintenance updates for a little while before we get Laurel back in a few months. So Jen, I will turn it over to you.
Good morning, and this is the kind of stuff I like to do. There are no maintenance updates for the next month, so next month we'll let you know how it's going.
All right, perfect. Thank you, Jen. Next on the agenda, I want to turn some time over to Monet to talk about annual meeting this year.
Thank you. Chris, can you bring up that lovely flyer for me? Greetings, everyone. I just want to let you know that we are officially moving forward. Oh, my apologies. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Oh, there we go. All right. So I want to let you know that we are officially moving forward with the face-to-face annual meeting this year. The dates are Sunday, August the 21st through Tuesday the 23rd. We are currently preparing the registration site and should have that available for you during our next meeting. What I would like to let you know is that in past years, we were able to accommodate approximately 90 plus people. However, this year, due to the pandemic, we will need to limit the number of people who will be participating as a face-to-face meeting. So we would strongly encourage you to consider coming to the meeting. It's a beautiful opportunity to sit face-to-face with your fellow vendors in the community, as well as meet the state data managers face-to-face. It's an awesome collaborative experience. And so again, we will only be able to accommodate approximately 60 people at the face-to-face meeting. So I thank all of you who responded during our last meeting that you would like to attend. We would also like to ask you to please start submitting your ideas about what type of topics you want us to cover at both the boot camp meeting that will be held on Sunday evening and the annual meeting itself. We would like to start preparing the agenda so you know in advance what the topics will be. The other thing we will do is we will provide a letter for the state managers to submit to your department chiefs, and because we would love for you to have adequate time to prepare for hopefully traveling to Park City, Utah. We will be at the lovely Deer Valley Resort, or actually it's Silver Bearing. For those of you who have been to that location before, you know it's a beautiful environment. Gives you an opportunity to unwind and also get some really good work done. So let us know if you have any questions. We'd be happy to answer those. Are there any questions at this time?
Hey, Monet, it's Karen. And hi, everybody. Good to see you guys. Hey, and the other thing is, if you're following the Olympics, one of the skiers, so many people are based in Salt Lake City, Park City, but one of them actually trained at Deer Valley. So there you go. Get a personal look where they did their training.
Thank you for that nice plug, Karen. All right. If you have additional questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. You can send your suggestions to Julianne, Clay, myself, and we'll start to prepare the materials that you'll need to have a full meeting in a wonderful environment. It'll be a great meeting. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Monet.
Hey, Julianne, this is.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, yes, sir. It looked like Benny asked a question whether there will be a Zoom option or a Teams option.
Yes, we will have a virtual option. It just won't be quite the same because there's quite a bit of those discussions that happen in smaller groups. So we totally recognize that for some states, travel is still out of the option for them. So we will have a virtual connection. It just won't be quite the same. And Matt asked a question in the chat as well for the vendors. If they attend virtually, will that meet the compliance requirements? And yes, that will. All right. Feel free to put any other questions in the chat or to reach out to us. And if you have ideas on specific topics that you would love for us to address in boot camp for the state data managers or in the annual meeting, we are building those agendas at this time too. All right, next on our agenda, Lauri is going to go over the state data manager survey that was sent out last month. Lauri, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you, Julianne. I want to say thank you first to all the state data managers who are on the call. We had over 30 states that have responded, and we're trying to track down a few more this week even, but I wanted to share the results with you. And essentially, we are hoping to help you communicate this to people who may be interested in when your state is making that transition. And we understand, let me just say first, we understand that plans may change, and this is a best guess. So we have currently posted on your state page what your intentions were last spring, and we will update that in the coming weeks to what your plan is now. But if it changes moving forward, just let us know, and we are happy to update that. Let me move to the next slide here. So you can see what's the planned timeframe for implementing the transition. And we know it, may not happen overnight, that it is going to be a process. But you can see there were 4 states that said their intention is to transition in this current first half of 2022. There were 9 states that said their plan is the second half of 2022, 5 states first half of 2023, and then 8 states in the second half of 2023. 6 states are kind of to be determined, unknown at this time. And let's move on to the next one here. You can see a list of states, and this will be, I'll show you at the end of my presentation where to find this on our website. This will be updated on the NHTSA website where you can find it if you are a vendor and you're interested in the states you work with and when they're transitioning, you can find that there. And as I already mentioned, let us know if your plans change, and we'll do the best we can to keep your state page updated and current. And then let me show you too, this is a screenshot of one state's page where this is posted, but let me show you where to find this and also where to find information as it may change. Let me switch to the screen. So if you just go to our main page, you can get there by clicking on the NHTSA logo in the top left and scroll down to the state map. If you click on any state, you'll see, first of all, you'll see information on data managers for that state. If you notice anything's outdated or needs to be updated or changed, please let us know. And then at the bottom of this page, you'll see your state data set as well as state schematron. And if you keep scrolling down, you'll see V3 implementation timeline. And the dates posted here are from what you can see here, this was updated last spring. And we will be changing this for the results we got in most recently. And then let me show you also where to find information on the Excel sheet, which will show you all of the state's information in one snapshot. If you go to using EMS data and you go down to the version 3.5 revision, and you'll see here state and vendor transition plans. And again, this is still the old one, but once we finalize the new one, we will update it here. This just opened in a new window for me, but you can see, oh, I'm having trouble moving it over. You can, there we go. You can see all of the states listed and their intended timeframe for transitioning. So thank you for everyone that participated in the survey. We'll do our best to keep your state pages updated. And again, just let us know of any changes as we move forward. Any questions on that?
Euler, I'll just mention, I think Chris put the link to the survey in the chat. So if there's any states who haven't yet participated in the survey, it'll take 3 minutes to complete. And if you have information, feel free to update it.
Yes, thank you, Clay. Any other questions? Okay, thank you. I'll pass it back to Julianne.
Thank you, Lauri, and thank you for the states that have responded to that survey. It just helps us to keep those lines of communication open between vendors and states as everybody's planning on their 3.5 transition timelines. Next on our agenda, we'd like to turn some time over to John Beckett and Brenda Staffan for an update on the ET3 model.
Thank you, Julianne. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen as well.
Absolutely.
Okay. So we are right now still kind of maintaining a pretty good level of submissions from the participants and their partner vendors. We're right around 131 that are active, which means they're sending us ePCR records pretty much on a monthly basis. We've broken through the 11,000 mark, and this is as of January 2022. So obviously, a lot more records will be coming in representing January activity up until the end of this month, which is when that is required. And you can see here a little bit in the breakdown, it is about 5.4 for the calendar year 2021 and 5.2 of historical. So a lot of that is obviously made up of last year as well as the historical period. And we've got about 400K that so far we've recorded for January. The other item I wanted to give an update is we have started our 3.5 testing cycle, and vendors are welcome to join us on this. I have reached out to a number of you, and some of you are ready, some are not. But we will be, making this environment available, at periods through the rest of the year. So don't feel, like you have to rush to get this done. But those that are ready, we are ready for you. So I just wanted to make that point as well. And yeah, we've got a number of folks that have successfully implemented, and implementation just means we are seeing your claims come in. We're seeing where there are monthly ePCR submissions that we're expecting on a monthly basis, as well as there's proper use of the ET3 custom elements. So these are all different areas that when we communicate to participants, we are looking to say that implementation is successful, based on these three categories. So I just wanted to point that out as well. In terms of other updates, and I've kind of gone through this in other meetings, but I did want to reiterate, we are focused a little bit on getting resubmitted ePCR records, particularly those that were dropped or or missing. And when we do send you an email, we're going to provide you with the PCR identifier that we might be looking for. So just bear in mind, those will be going out to both vendors and participants. So you may also, see some emails coming to you from the participant as well. And the other message I wanted to deliver was if there's a possibility that your software can see submissions during the planned and unplanned outage period, sometimes these missing records are really adding up to where the software is trying to submit, we have a planned outage, and typically, obviously, that's not gonna go through. However, we don't see any resubmissions of those same records as well. So we just want to, encourage folks, if you do see where we've notified you about an outage, please cease those submissions if you can, or if your software is capable of resubmitting, we welcome that too as well. Just real quick on the 3.5 implementation, our timeline now is to make the production environment available March 15th. So even though we're opening up the testing cycle, we will be available to receive those as of early as March 15th. We are open right now as of February 7th and our test environment. And we do have a kickoff meeting with 3 vendors that right now we're trying to schedule for the week of February 21st. And just a reminder, all the 3.5 documentation is out there, so you can go out and find it. And we have separated 3.4 from 3.5 so that, again, we can distinguish the two. So just bear in mind, that's all out on the NHTSA site. On the issues with submission, it's pretty much the same things that we've been tracking. We do have expiring keys where, again, there's a requirement every 180 days you have to renew. We are sending email notifications out, and we're using our API key requester list. That means if you've gone in and you've requested a key, you will be getting the email notifications in advance of that expiration. So that gives you a little bit of a heads up. We also have a number of our participants that have not submitted the ePCR records that we're expecting. And so right now there's about 48 of those, and we're again working to try and get those folks to start their participation. And then again, I mentioned the drop records. Some of these, or most of these, may be due to incorrect the agency field values. We're doing right now a good job of focusing in on these with NHTSA TAC and just making sure we're checking the state records to see what the updated or most latest the agency field values are, so that we can, again, make sure those records get in and don't get rejected. Finally, we are seeing where there's some custom element fields missing. And based on that, we may see the claim submitted, but there's no entries in the PCR records. So we do want to address that. And then the historical data submission, obviously, if you're on version 2 or we're on version 2 during that historical period, you're not going to be able to migrate those. So therefore, there is a path by which we can go ahead and allow for you to not have to submit that information to us. So keep in mind that is available. Last thing I just want to point out is we do have a webinar that is going to take place on February 23rd. It'll go from 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock. Initially, this was focused to participants. However, I have asked if we can include vendors as well as the TAC will be there. And the purpose of this is really just to address data submission and accuracy and give awareness around and guidance around making sure that we can achieve the goals that we have set out for submission. This event is going to be streamed, so if you want to listen in using your computer speakers, that is recommended, and the number is here, for you if you need to use it. So I'm going to stop there, Julianne, and if you have any questions or comments, feel free.
Hey, John, this is Samantha with ESO. Is this webinar invite going out in an email? I'm sure we would be interested in attending, but I didn't know if I needed to capture this information now or not.
Yeah, so I think the way we are talking about this is if we have their email for the vendors, we'll include that in the email blast. But if we don't, and you haven't received an email, definitely go to your participant and they can share that with you, and you can then attend. So yeah, we're kind of trying to use the email list that we have, and we only have vendors' emails who have come in. A lot of them who have come in to either do testing or they have requested a security key. So we don't have all the vendors, but we certainly have a good set of them. So if you haven't received the email, yeah, go check with your participant, and they'll definitely share that with you.
Great, thanks.
Yep. All right. Julianne, I'll turn it back over to you.
All right, thanks, John. Any other questions for John or Brenda? All right. Next on the agenda is Eric Chaney. Are there any items from the Office of EMS you'd like to share with us today, Eric?
Hi, Julianne. Can you pull up the agenda? Was there a specific topic that I was supposed to address?
There wasn't a specific topic that we had on the agenda, so you are free to talk about whatever you'd like.
Two main things. One is, first, thanks for everyone, the transparency and everything on the version 3 implementation, 3.5 implementation. That is going really well. We're trying to keep all the powers to be informed on where everyone's at. And I really appreciate that. I think there's some belief from time to time that we stonewall things or try to hide things. I'm not quite sure where that comes from, but on some of the calls, I often get the feeling that people think I'm holding something back and we're just not telling them about something that's going on. Maybe that's the government conspiracy thing. I'm not sure. But at the end of the day, we put out these lists, and I know sometimes you get tired of us asking, like, where do you think you're at with this? And, which states are doing what? And, if you're having problems with a specific state, is there something we can help you with? The bottom line is, when I took over this position from Jeremy, one of the things I wanted to make clear is that anything that we did, we're going to put out there for everyone to see. And there's times where, we're asked not to, and I understand that. But in terms of implementation, I really appreciate it. The ET3 folks are tracking on version 3.5, as you've heard. So that part of it is, keeping that in sync. The work that's being done with ONC and HL7 fire, all of these things now, in the past, when you went from version 2 to version 3, you had to update, you had to do all these things. Now we have to do those, and we have to keep everything in sync with all the partners that are really starting to use this data. And sometimes that's a pretty heavy lift. So we'll make sure that we keep you informed of all that. And as I said, I really appreciate what you're doing. I want to mention demographic files just for a second. I'm going to talk about that at the data managers meeting a little bit more detail. But we've really started to focus on this, and the NHTSA's ABL committee is the group that's looking at this for NHTSA, and we've been assisting them. We want to get to a point where we can answer the big question, and it's the one Dita gets most often, and she can't answer, and I can't answer, which is how many ambulance services are there in the United States and where are they? And we can tell you the number of intubations that occurred and the number of this type of patient we've seen and what hospitals they go to, but service-wise, it's a little bit tricky. So for the vendor's perspective, I just want to let you know that we're going to be focusing a lot more on the DEM files. We may reach out to the vendors independently and ask if you're collecting this data for the states above and beyond EPCRs, and are you doing like the state registry of EMS services? And we're going to gather some of that data. The other piece is we've engaged working with the U.S. Fire Administration, David Milstein, Rick Patrick, in the NFIRS office to look at how they are capturing some of their demographics as well in an effort to, and I dare say this is blasphemy, have two federal agencies actually do something the same way and report it out the same way, collected and reported the same way. So those are two things I wanted to mention. The first, just a big thank you for the hard work on on ET3 too, but also on the version 3.5 update. And then just to let you know, we're looking around trying to figure out how things are done now on the demographic file side, what's being collected, who's doing the collection. And the reason we're doing that is to try to get at this master list, this master map of, ambulance services and maybe even the stations associated with that. We're not sure what all the possibilities are right now. I know, there's a lot of questions on the table, but again, just letting you know what's coming. I'm happy to answer any questions, as always, you have for our office. So if anyone has any, please let me know. If not, as I always say, take care and be safe.
Any questions for Eric? All right, thank you, Eric. Next, just a couple of things on the agenda. Let's do open forum. Are there any topics, questions, concerns that anyone would like to bring forward on this call?
Julianne, this is Brenda Klopfelter from Florida.
Yes, Brenda.
Yeah, we're looking for help. And I'm not here to have a technical discussion on this call, but we've got 2 or 3 issues that we are looking to collaborate and looking to see what other states are doing to address some of the challenges that we are facing. One of those being able to count actual incidences, not EPCR records, but actual incidences. We are not consistently reporting e-response 03 as an incident number, so we're having a difficult time being able to count the number of incidences that we go on. We can count cardiac arrests and so forth, but we're not counting incidents. We show cardiac arrests for the 3 trucks that went out, for instance. So we are looking to see if other states are having that difficulty, and if they have, how have they solved that problem, if they would be willing to collaborate with us a little bit and share their experiences. So I can put my email in the chat if anybody's willing to do that. The second thing that I wanted to ask about is related to the EMS and trauma linkage approach that you guys have the white paper on. I'm interested to see if other states have utilized that approach. Are they linking with trauma at this time, and would they be willing to share their experiences there? Because we have quite a bit of interest in moving in that direction fairly fast. So, so I'm not sure the best way to do that except put my email and beg, beg for someone who is having any of those challenges. I can't be the only state that's having a trouble counting incidents, because it's a little difficult for us to see that. So those were the main 2 things. And just as another thing, this is just a question maybe to Clay and to whomever. We at one point in time had implemented we had defined some COVID-related elements. They were never really implemented thoroughly through Florida, but is NHTSA still collecting those COVID-related elements that at one point in time you had talked about doing regarding travel and things like that, or are you doing that?
Yeah, Brenda, great questions. Wow. All 3. I'd love to address the later 2 questions you had. I guess first the UUID. So using the NHTSA UUID for the EPCR to provide a state level link, and then perhaps a national link as well to bring together trauma registry data with EMS data. It's probably time to resurrect those educational efforts. So yeah, Brenda mentioned there are some descriptive information we have. There's a white paper that kind of describes it in detail. And then there's also some technical work that we've done that's available on the web. But I don't know, perhaps, and we can work with ESO, perhaps there's a way to provide a more methodological approach to actually implementing the process and how a state would go about doing that. I know Eric is interested in making sure we get back to that now that states are moving to 3.5. That's where the UUID will be found. So yeah, great idea, Brenda. We'll put that back on our radar. And then in regards to the national elements that we developed early on related to the pandemic, these were custom elements, national custom elements. So that was our first venue into this idea of building custom elements that we hoped would be implemented across the country. Those, Brenda, were put out, and I think a lot of states actually utilize those for early questions about travel and such, as you mentioned. Those weren't collected at the national level because they weren't part of the national schema that we received. So they were available for states to standardize the reporting across states, but they were never collected at the national level. That's another strong concern of Eric's, right, is how do we take the lessons that we're learning now? Clearly, some of those elements probably need to be implemented into NHTSA so that we would be prepared if this were to happen again, or if it even was to resurface now. So I know those are both heavy topics that I know Eric is interested in, Brenda. So those are great ideas. Any further thoughts, Eric? I know you've talked a lot about both.
No, Clay, I think it's a how-to thing and a when-to thing. This whole process of updates, this whole process of versioning, I think is something that we need to sit down and talk with the vendors about and see what they think would be a great way ahead. And ultimately, if we can tie it into the compliance process and just make it all part of the update, I think that would be from what I've heard, and again, as many of you have heard me say, this is not my area of expertise. From what I heard, that would be the simplest approach, and it would make sense. But these giant changes in versions are a concern. Another concern that keeps coming up for me, and again, this isn't anything I haven't said before too. I think we have a pretty good relationship with the vendors. We have a great relationship in that we talk to the data managers routinely. The part that I think I'm missing out on is talking to the individual providers completing the reports. And for the vendors that have invited us to participate in their conferences, that's one of the things we want to ask for the participants in the room. And the theory is, and I had this in a previous slide, that we collect all this data, and do we need to collect all this data? And the reality is, for every element we collect, we probably have someone that wants to add another element. And that's not us, that's not the TAC, that's not necessarily DOT. Although I think DOT would have some they would like to add transportation related. Struck by alongside the road is a good example, and some other things where they're putting a lot of money in initiatives right now. But how do we make a determination on whether or not what we're collecting is what we should be collecting, and if we expand things where we should expand? I know there's been different processes taken in the past, but how do you prioritize that? Because everybody that brings that data element or that information to the table says that's the most important thing in their world and should be the most important thing in your world. When in reality, we know that the EMS provider in the field doesn't want to collect any more than they have and spend any more time on reporting. But then the alternate reality is, if you have someone in the hospital right now, you watch the nurse come in the room and he'll stand at a cart and they may or may not touch the patient, but they'll document it for like 5 minutes as a part of the assessment. And, has the healthcare model changed for pre-hospital as well, where documentation is going to be as much time, if not more, than the actual patient care and contact. So I don't know that answers your question, Clay, but certainly all those things are in play, and I'm very open to ideas and thoughts from anyone on those topics.
This is Brenda again from Florida. And the reason we brought that up, particularly, and Clay, you say these were, national custom elements. We had them as custom elements, but our question came up yesterday as whether we were bringing them over as custom elements for 3.5 in our Florida data dictionary. So did National bring those over in 3.5?
Oh, that's a really good question, Brenda. And let's make note of that, Julianne. Just to review those national elements and see if there are changes to their structure with the new version. That's a great idea, Brenda. We'd want to have those national elements be compatible with 3.5. So great question.
Clay, it's Josh. We have done that, and they are published in the repository.
Okay, thank you,
good.
Josh.
I didn't do my proper homework, Josh. Okay, I'm going to put my email in the chat just in case anybody else would like to have some conversation about it, particularly the incident number and how that's going to be implemented there. And we've done some research on our current data, and we know right now it's very, very hard for us to count unique incidences. So I appreciate you giving me the time to bring those up today.
Yeah, Brenda, and I'll just mention your first question about identifying a unique event, or unique incidents and the different apparatus and agencies that respond to the one incident. That's a great question. Perhaps that's one, if it's okay. I know Tom's on the call, and Jay, if it's okay, maybe we can bring that to the DMC as maybe something for us to try to determine together. There's clearly researchers that have had that same kind of issue and have utilized NMSIS data to try to do that. You're right, it's hard with the current structure because every responding agency will submit an EPCR if they have patient contact. So yeah, that might be a great project for the DMC.
Okay, thank you, Clay.
Yeah, great question.
Hey, Brenda, this is Karen Jacobson. Back in the day when I was with the state of Minnesota, we did a lot of work and training on that. So the state of Minnesota, the current data manager for Minnesota, he used to work for the largest individual ambulance service. And of course, a larger ambulance service, it's easier for them to have, if they have multiple ambulances even, respond, and they'll cancel one and send one that's closer, and they'll have the same incident number, but they'll have different response numbers. So Minnesota might be a resource for you to see what they've done, at least to try to improve that, maybe in the Minneapolis-St. Paul area. A lot of it's, of course, dependent on the dispatch center. So
right. Thank you, Karen, which was it really wasn't another question, but we had a lot of people in our state take exception to the description of that e-response 03 because it refers to a 911 dispatch.
Yeah.
And so I was asked to maybe change that description, which I, pushed back on because I didn't want to make any changes to the national description. But that is misleading for some folks out in the field, and sometimes we just don't get great data there at all. So, okay, I appreciate everybody. Let me just stick my email somewhere. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Brenda.
Are there any other topics, questions, concerns that anyone would like to bring forward? All right. You'll notice on the agenda, we have postponed the agency location dashboard training that we had scheduled for later this month. We will do that training another month. So that's been postponed. Our next V3 implementation call will be February 23rd. And then again, we'll have 2 in March, same time, same place. The Technical Assistance Center is closed on February 21st, so we'll all be out of office for that. It looks like Brenda put her email address in the chat. So if you're a state or a vendor that has made some progress on any of her 3 topics, or want to commiserate on if that's difficult in their state as well, please reach out to Brenda. We've got some really experienced data managers and vendors on this call, so it's a great audience to ask those questions to. If there is nothing else, we'll go ahead and close out this meeting. Thank you for being with us today and taking time out of your busy schedules. We appreciate your input, questions, comments. That is very helpful to all of us. Thank you, everyone, and have a great rest of your day.